Alex, my friend, I am hungry. I've had my dinner, right? Now I fancy a bit of dessert. Does anyone in here fancy a little bit of Spurs crumble? Because it
Oh,
tastes so sweet. Hello,
delicious.
everybody. Welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. There's only two of us at the moment. We're expecting Dagan again. Hashtag where is that? Here he is. Hold on. We've got him. There he is.
What's up, lads? What's going on?
Hey, Dagan. How are you, mate? We're just saying how hungry we are for a bit of Spurs crumble.
Oh boy, yeah, I saw your little pun. I saw your pun.
Well, you know, it's a punny kind of day, Dagan, and we're loving life.
It is, man. I love that. I love that shirt, Alex. I like your keeper. I like your keeper shirt too. Yeah,
keeper shirt.
Yeah.
Happy days. That's a good shirt. Alex has got a good shirt.
I got to order that home shirt, man. I got to order it. I've been putting it on.
Do it, Dagan. Let's see.
All right,
who else on the show. We have got Alex. Alex, mate, how are you doing?
I am very good, thanks, Joe. I didn't think I'd be very good, but at about 45 minutes gone yesterday afternoon, 5:15. But yeah, pretty good.
That's good. That is very good because it is a good day. We've won a game of football. Don't we just love it? Dagan, how are you doing, mate?
Doing quite well. Made it home. Gonna do this. Then gonna watch the kid play a game.
Sounds like a plan. Definitely sounds like a plan. Hello to everyone in the chat. We've got Rodders. Hello, everyone. Joanna, hi. And Michael Webster. Are you related to Adam Webster? If you are, can you just give us an update on how Adam Webster is? Because he went off injured, and I'm a little bit worried. I love him as a guy, a footballer, you know, but it's fine. And Phil, we've got Phil in the chat as well. Good evening, all. Hello. Oh, let's just not talk about the Chelsea game and let's just go straight onto the Spurs game because we'll just forget the Chelsea game ever happened. Alex, one question I'm going to have to you first off, straight off the bat, we're getting straight into it. So there's been a lot of people moaning about the high line and the way Hertzler wants to play. One thing that occurred to me was against Chelsea, did we actually concede a goal because of the high line? Or are people just getting a little bit upset at the one thing that's going wrong and getting a bit ahead of themselves and like sort of nitpicking Hertzler? We've lost one game under him. So do you think people are being a little bit too quick to criticize?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. I mean, I said in the chat, didn't I, this week about my dad asking whether Hertzler would be out by December, which is a massive overreaction. Sorry, Dad. Yeah, I think people have been overreacting. I think, you know, as I've said it all along, I think this is a system that players have to get used to. We have to find our feet in it, find out how to work it. There's a lot of. Well, he didn't call it a high line, did he? He called it a dynamic line, I think was how he referred to it after the Chelsea game. That's what he said. So I quite like that. It is dynamic, right? That's part of the problem is that it is very dynamic. The players have to react. They have to be very aware of everything else that's going on the pitch. And, you know, they have to react to that. And I think Webster copped a lot of blame for the Chelsea game. He did make a glaring error. Some would say possibly he was at fault for two of the goals. But he also, you know, in the second half, did an amazing goal line clearance, then another clearance a little bit later on as well, and kind of redeemed himself. And I think he did enough that second half to get the start in this game. But as far as Hertzler is concerned, I think, you know, we are getting there, but it is going to be scary sometimes. There are going to be scary moments. I don't think we can forget that.
Definitely. We've had one or two people, someone in our group chat, I won't name names just because I'm nice, referring to Hertzler as a hippier 2.0, which I think is one hell of an extreme overreaction, considering, as again, we've only lost one game of football under Fabian Hurtzler, and we're in October now. Dagan, what do you make of the reactionary response to the Chelsea result?
With all due respect, people should shut up. They just don't know what they're talking about. It's so infuriating. Like, logical fallacy, false cause and effect. It just, yeah. I have been mute on Twitter because I just can't. It's nonsense. It's just not what's happening. Like, no matter where the line is, the ability of the defense to hold the line consistently is key. The goal that the commentators were like, Brighton's high line is beaten again. The guys were 5 yards outside of our box. That's where our defenders were. That's not a high line, folks. That's not a high line. It's so infuriating. Like, I haven't wanted to be a part of the discourse because it's so reactionary, so negative, and so wrong. So categorically wrong. That's not what's happening. Now, does it put us in tight spots? Yes. But the reason we're scoring so many goals is because of this system. Because of this system. Yes, we're going to give up some goals, but we're going to get better at it. We've got new guys. Kadioglu was a disaster in the first half yesterday defensively. Most of their opportunities came because he was one step deeper, one step. He'll get better. He'll adjust. Like, people need to slow their roll. As you said, we've lost one game to a Chelsea team that's been strong for the most part this year. They're sitting fourth. And again, I know they drew with Forest yesterday, but we've seen Forest has been a tough customer this year. They've only lost one game all year. So despite the cries of, oh, look, we drew with Forest, the sky's falling, it's not. The biggest concern I have is Van Heck being out injured. That's the biggest concern. And then João Pedro being out injured secondarily, though I think we have more cover there. But it's not the high line, folks. It's just not the high line. There are some pains there, but they are manageable, and we're going to get better. It is the system, and it's a system that I think will work. And our personnel will get better over the years for the system. Some real questions to be asked, but the sky is not falling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I said I wouldn't mention the Chelsea result, but then I asked you both a question about the Chelsea result, which resulted in we're 7 minutes in and we've already had a passionate Dagan rant. So Albion Obsessed are well and truly back. My dad's in the chat saying, nice shirt, Joe. Yeah, I wonder who bought me this wonderful shirt. Thank you very much, Dad. And we've got Rodder saying, with Van Hecker and Webster out, we only have Igor and Dunk. We need a centre-back. Alex, you've pointed out there's a very suitable right back who can play centre-back. Talk to us about the shithousery of Joel Veltman.
Yeah, I thought this might come up. I mean, he's just becoming the chief shithouser, isn't he? We've since Maupay's gone, we've never really filled that role. A bit like the central midfielder, though that's getting a bit better this season. I think we could come on to that a little bit later. But yeah, come on, man. That falling over was hilarious. It was down the other end from me, so we just saw him go over. And but the reaction for the Tottenham players, you just knew he was playing up to it. And seeing the repeat on telly last night and today, hilarious. One of the funniest things about it has been the reaction of Arsenal fans on Twitter who brought up again the Declan Rice card. And what do you mean? Joel Veltman, that guy who cheated his way to getting our top player sent off and winning the game. This is 37 days later, 37 days, and they're still banging on about Declan Rice's well-deserved second yellow card, and Joel Veltman is collecting their tears. Love it.
Joel Veltman has the whole of North London on strings. It is fully confirmed. Let's talk about the starting 11, and we'll get into the Spurs game, and we'll touch briefly on the first half, but really it's the second half we want to be talking about. So the starting 11 was Bart Verbruggen, not Van Hecker, he's injured, Veltman, Dunk, Webster, Kadioglu, midfield 2 of Belieber and Hinshelwood. Ahead of them, it was I'm doing this all off memory, guys. Matoma, Rutter, Minter, and leading the line, Danny Welbeck. Dagan, what did you make of the starting 11? Obviously, Hinchell was starting at centre midfield again, and Kadioglu coming in at left back.
Yeah, fine. I think given the circumstances, you could make a case for a couple of alternatives, but I think Wiefer's still finding his fitness. Estupinian has looked unsteady up until coming on yesterday, and I think it's one of those. Look, coaches know their players, and to me, that bespoke a guy realizing his starting spot is in real jeopardy, and he rose to the occasion. And to have two quality guys with what they can do in the attack, especially like Kadioglu and Estupinian, battling it out for a spot is a luxury for any club to be in. I was satisfied. It was pretty much an expected lineup. Happy to see Minta back in his spot. I continue to think he's a difference maker, albeit prone to the occasional bad decision. And he forces things, and that led to an opportunity. That first chance was him giving the ball away early, and we went the other way. Our line wasn't in shape. I think, in that instance, it was Kadioglu keeping the runner on the opposite side of the pitch onside because he was trying to run with Johnson and then slowed up, realizing that he had erred. Anyway, I get ahead. That's the starting lineup. But I was happy with it, and certainly looking at the bench, despite missing a couple of key players, the bench still looks strong, which again is a testimony to the work in the summer of the club.
Yeah, definitely. And Rodders has pointed out the link-up play between Matoma and Estupinian in the second half, which we'll definitely come on to. It was like being back in 2022-23 with them two flying down the wing, which was really lovely to see. Alex, Jack Hinshaw coming in at centre midfield again. I think he's sort of like splitting the fan base as to where is his best position. Do you like to see him in the centre midfield, or would you prefer him playing at right back?
Yeah, I love him in centre of midfield. I think it's his best position. He was missing for most of the first half yesterday. I think you hardly saw him touch, and I think just everyone was taken by surprise. We'll come on to that later, but yeah, he's centre mid for me. I love him. I love him to be able to get forward in those positions, to get up, to get into those attacking positions, and he's one of the players who played 90 minutes yesterday without any trouble. Right, he lasted the full time on the pitch. Believer got hooked. Hinchy didn't. I think the manager has real faith in him, and he lives and breathes the club. I love him. Absolutely love him. He's such a character, isn't he, as well? When you see him on the behind the scenes stuff, you can just see that he just, he's just a proper character, and you can tell he's good to have around the team as well. So that centre of the park, he's a future leader, isn't he? I think he's got that written all over him.
He is, yeah. For me, like whenever you see him like behind the scenes, he comes across a really funny guy, but he always just looks really confused to be there, as if he's like won a prize that he's going to play for Brighton, but he does it well and does it incredibly. A credit to this football club, considering how far he's come from the age group all the way through to the first team. The first age group all the way through to the first team. So. Yeah, I think we're only going to see good things come from the academy, and it was going to take this amount of time for it to start showing the fruits of the labour, and we're 10 years into having this training ground, I think, and the proof is in the pudding of the Spurs crumble. So there you go. There's another pun for you, Dagan. I mean, what? Sorry. Alex has just pointed out something very, very interesting, which we should be talking about with the academy, which I don't know how it didn't come to my mind. But they beat a small team from South London. I don't know the name of the team that they beat. So you might have to tell me. 10-0. I mean, Dagan, the future is Brighton, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's emblematic of an organization that's well run. It is one game, but that is a result, I think, that puts in perspective in ways that don't need a lot of explanation, that there's a gap between the trajectory of our club and this other club. Much was made this summer of their rise under Glasner. But again, like many new managers, there's a bounce and then there's a fall. And, some change in personnel, Olise leaving. And I mean, again, I know this isn't their academy team, but I think I don't think they have the depth of talent that we have right now, either in their first team and then obviously at the academy level. And again, it's just the master plan of Tony Bloom building a program and building a sustainable model of success.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, Alex, they came out with a famous phrase last season: "There are teachers, there are pupils. Brighton and Hove Albion, know your place." I think we know our place, don't we?
Yeah, we do at the moment. Mind the gap and all that. I mean, yeah, we've had a much better start, obviously, and that academy result. I mean, I watched the highlights today. It was really interesting, and their defence was all over the shop, and they just looked horrified, all of them, the entire time. But what was really interesting to see was our forward lines and that tenaciousness and the passion and the energy and the wanting to fight for those balls. Every single ball in that area, and you saw very similar. You could see kind of from us in the second half yesterday, getting into those forward areas and not letting anyone take the ball away from our feet. And even if it comes out a little way, there's someone there to go and get it again, someone to scrap, someone to fight. And I think, under other managers, sometimes we haven't had that. And I'm hoping, I really hope this is a kind of a cultural. We've got to fight up the front. We've got to do this high press and really fight for those balls, because if you don't and they go, then that's it. Then you've got the risk of being hit on the break. So the best defense is attack, right? And I think that was what you saw yesterday in the short bits that I saw. But yeah, it was a great result.
Yeah, for sure. Mohammed in the chat saying, "I wonder your rivalry with Palace." I mean, there's a lot of really, really good videos on YouTube about the rivalry between Brighton and Palace. So go over to one of those once this podcast is finished and give that a watch. But it stems back to old managers having a rivalry, and it just burst over onto the fans basically, and it stuck. And now we hate them. So if you're going to support Brighton this year because of your boy Yankuba Minter, then get hating the Eagles, because they're not liked around these parts for sure. So I guess let's just gloss over the 2 goals very quickly. So I think, Alex, I was like mid celebrating the fact that they got given a goal offside. And then they scored straight away. So, a bit frustrating to sort of lose our concentration in that moment and go 1-0 down, right?
Yeah, I think the players were as well, right? I mean, but they, it was coming. That's all you can say about those first few minutes. It was definitely coming, and we looked, a yard off the pace. We definitely were on the back foot. We were, we weren't getting anything at all. The referee was a little bit frustrating. I don't think he was a terrible ref yesterday, but he was a little bit frustrating in the early stage of the game. We just couldn't string the passes together. We couldn't get our foot on the ball, basically, at the end of the day. And those guys, you've got players on form like Johnson and, and our players trying to get the system, as Dagan said, Fergie trying to catch up, and I think for the second one, Jorginho was a little bit out of or lost the ball. So I mean, it's just it was painful, absolutely painful. But
Go on, Dagan.
Well, so I've read and heard folks say, anyone who had an optimistic view of the first half, and I rewatched back from like 30 minutes to the 40th minute. And again, other than the second goal, we really dominated that passage of play. Welbeck couldn't quite get his foot on the end of one that was a golden opportunity. Hinchelwood had a good look at a header. There was another chance in there. I mean, that was a moment where we could have had 3 goals in 10 minutes there. If anything, I thought that was a foreshadowing of what happened in the second half. Matoma was really having his way down that side. I'm excited to talk about some of the halftime changes and the adjustments that were made, and how we sort of exploited in ways you might not expect the Spurs defense. So I'll pause there. But I just want to say, I wouldn't say I saw 3-2 coming, but I did see that the Spurs were vulnerable, and I did not think all was in that game at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a comment in the chat saying you had to say Spurs were seriously good in that first half. I mean, that they were clinical. They had bite and they hit us when they needed to hit us and scored at really important moments in that half. And yeah, there were more moments that we haven't talked about already that they had more opportunities. They could have scored 4 goals in the first half, but as Dagan says, we did have a positive period in that first half where we could have brought it back to 2-2 easily. It's one of those games where you've got 2 managers that are playing a system of football that is just sort of anarchy almost. It's just like do whatever you like, high flying fullbacks, high lines everywhere. It was one of those games where you think this could end 5-5. Like before the game started, that's what I'm sort of alluding to, because we can see goals, Spurs can see goals, and you never know what Spurs you're going to get turn up. So, but I was just very happy that a different Spurs turned up in the second half. I'll just talk about the second goal very quickly, Alex. James Maddison burst through. Should Bart have done better with that? I think it was quite difficult for him to get down, but you know, a lot of people say that he should have had stronger wrists.
I think when anyone sees a goalkeeper get his hand to it, they always think you should keep it, but I don't think that's the case. I mean, otherwise, yeah, you know, there'd be a lot less goals. But I think he did very well to get down there and to get it. It's one of those moves, wasn't it, where we, as Dagan had said, we had been bit of dominance. I'm not sure we were dominant. I think we were playing better. I think we were starting to get back into the match, but we still looked a bit off the pace and still looked vulnerable on the counter. Mitoma was the standout player, I think, in that part, although Jorginho was starting to come into it, but Danny looked a bit lost, and yeah, it was just a bit. And then as soon as that move happened, I was watching it and I just, they're going to score. They're going to score. You could see there was so much space, so much room. And Maddison just moved into that position. And you're like, yeah, that's going in, isn't it? It'd be crazy if it didn't. So, and that, of course, put a proper downer on it for half time. You go in 2-0 down instead of 1-0 down. You think 1-0 down, you come out, you've probably got a chance. Going in 2-0 down it's a different story in it. And I think the stadium lost any semblance at that point. It was really quiet, and all you could hear was the Spurs fans singing, which they hadn't really done a lot of, to be honest, in the first half, apart from the goals. But bless them, they got their singing voices out. But yeah, at that point it was pretty miserable.
Yeah, I mean, a lot's made of the atmosphere at the Amex when things aren't going too well, and I think Brighton have always been a reactionary crowd anyway. But I think Hertz has quite switched on to giving the fans something to shout about and something to fight for. And if you don't see that fight on the pitch from the players, then what is the point in shouting? And I'm always behind them. Any opportunity I get to support them or to shout a bit of encouraging words, I always do. But it's hard when 30,000 people aren't doing that with you. Like, you can only do so much, and that noise is generated by what's happening on the pitch. And Rod has just made a really good point, which I was going to come to anyway. After the game, Danny Welbeck touched on the senior figures in the dressing room, Jason Steele, James Milner, about what it is to win a Premier League game and to go out there and to show what you're about. So Dagan, it's so important that these characters are there, and it's something that our model was built on, is having these senior figures. So yeah, really interesting to hear Danny sort of touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, leadership can be on the pitch and leadership can be in the locker room, and I think you need both. And sometimes those voices, from the side or from the locker room that can see what's happening on the pitch and maybe echo the sentiments of the coach can be really, really helpful. Certainly when it comes from someone of the stature of a James Milner and the experience that he has. I think he's an asset whether he's available to play or not, and I think that bears out. The other thing, that I think stems from the manager and stems from veterans is belief, right? I mean, tap the sign, but the belief that you can come back in a game where you're down. And I think the one thing that this team has is a belief that we can score goals at any time. It's genuinely shocking when we don't put the ball in the back of the net over the course of a stretch of time. I was just going to say of the first half, I mean, the Spurs had 2 shots on goal, just 2. They scored on both, and Verbruggen should have done better on the second. Period. Like that ball should have been stopped. That wasn't the high line getting picked apart. We recovered. We were in position. We didn't track back as well as we should have, and Madison was open at the edge of the box. But yeah, I mean, ultimately Bart should have done better there. We don't say that of him very often. But just wanted to add that. I mean, I don't know. I watched back the game later, and it wasn't as clinical a half by Spurs. Like, they broke us down a few times, and they had some chances. They could have made more of them than they did. But yeah, I didn't see it nearly as bad. I think people were carrying the Chelsea game, and their impression of this first half was really colored by what was a very clinical Chelsea team and capitalizing on their chances. And frankly, as Joanna said here, a couple of chances that were maybe better than they should have been with the soft penalty and the free kick from far ahead of where it should have been taken.
Yeah, no, I agree. We got Sam in the chat saying, "Big up, lads! Gave us Arsenal fans a laugh on Sunday. What a comeback though from I think it's Gunner's Gossip, Sam. You're so welcome. Just go easy on Joel Veltman, please. We love him, and you would love him if he was at your football club too. So go easy on him. Dagan, I'm gonna come to you again. Because we wanted to talk about the changes made at halftime. So I'm just going to let you have your tactical nerdery right now.
Thanks. Well, I'll tip the cap because what I saw was also reflected in a really nice summary from John McKenzie. But what we did was we pushed all 4 of our attackers onto their back line, and we opened up a ton of space in between their pressing group and their defensive line. So even though there was a high line, there was space in front of that line.
Oh, I think we've lost Dagan. Midway through his tactical talk. If he comes back to us, we will let him carry on. But yeah, he's frozen. He's completely frozen. Let it go. No, I won't start singing. Alex, I'll just come to you. No, he's back.
Oh,
I'm back. Where did I lose you, Joe?
You were talking about opening up the space between their pressing group and something else tactical that I didn't understand. But carry on.
And so what we did is we brought our wide attacking players narrow. And so that front 4 was basically in a line, but in a very narrow space, which opened up space for Estupiñán in particular to drift into the vacated wide space just behind Matoma. And so often you saw us play in through Estupiñán, who was basically wide open. And then they had to rotate to him, which opened up Matoma. And then you had essentially a series of one-on-ones the rest of the way across. And so as Matoma attacked that defender and brought the other defender to hedge, we just had a numerical advantage, or at the very least good one-on-one opportunities. And that was available to us the whole second half. But I think really it was that, instead of bringing more guys back to the ball to try to compete with the press, right? He stretched that back line, really, in some ways stretched, in other ways compressed, by making the attackers narrow. But I thought it was brilliant. I really thought it was brilliant, and obviously effective. But it was counterintuitive, and I think if it didn't work, right, we'd say, "Oh, well, this guy's not making any adjustments. Nothing's happening. We're not doing anything." I think tactics don't always work. The other team is trying to counter those same tactics, right? That's why no one team wins every match. But I don't think we have a manager here who's not tactically adept, right? I think we have a guy who is making adjustments. He is true to his system and has to manipulate that system to try to get a result in a match. But I think he's shown flexibility with his personnel. And I think in particular this game, right, a big adjustment where Kadioglu wasn't having a great defensive performance. He did offer a lot going forward. Always seems to do that, but Estupiñán really rose to the occasion. And Matoma, I thought, was sensational throughout, really. They were in goals second half.
Exactly that. I mean, yeah, incredible tactical insight from you. Thank you, Dagan. But yeah, I think we do have a manager that, you know, I think every manager these days is stubborn to their system. All managers at the highest level want to play their way, and that's the only way. That's the way they want to win a game, and that's what makes them successful in a way. Sometimes unsuccessful, obviously, because it doesn't work if you haven't got the right players. But Hertzler's playing his way, and we're one loss into a Premier League season in October into the second international break. So what we're seeing in front of us, the facts that we have, is that Hertzler is doing a fantastic job, and that people shouldn't be starting to question him on the fact that we lost 4-2 to Chelsea with Cole Palmer, who is in red hot form, or cold form if you want to go to that level. Yeah, we shouldn't be questioning him there. Alex, one thing about Karim Matoma, I saw his heat map after the game, and oh my goodness me, people talk about the fall off of Karim Matoma, which was an injury, by the way. But I mean, if there was a fallback, goodness me, he's back, right?
Oh, yeah. Is he? Yeah. I mean, yesterday we saw the true brilliance of him, didn't we? And as Dagan pointed out, even in the first half, he was, you know, the standout player. I mean, he looked isolated at times, to be fair, but even in that half, he was the one kind of really making the chances. And then in the second half, we had that classic Purvis and Matoma link up, and I think the tactical switch was important, but the other thing the guys said was the mind, the talking about that you've got to win, you've got to fight for every ball, you've got to go out there and win that game. That's just as important, I think, yesterday, because Spurs were vulnerable, and I think they saw that, and I think they saw we could do something, and Matoma was the linchpin for that. What better thing to do than give him the player he's played so well with for so long? And they must have seen, they must have seen glimmers of that partnership re-emerging again, and just gone to Purvis. Come on, mate. Give him that support. Make that space, because they've done it so many times. We've seen them rip defenses apart, and one of them's back, one of them's forward. They've gone central, and they're just making those triangles, making that space. As Dagan put so well, I'm not so good at putting it so well in the tactical stuff, but absolutely you see it all the time. And then other players getting drawn into that as well. So you'll see Welbeck pop up and come in with them as well. And other players, and Jorginho yesterday as well will come in and play with them. And, it's so beautiful to see it, to see us rip apart a team and for those two to be back together. And I think it's, Purvis made the difference. I've always been a massive Purvis fan. I'm not going to lie, and it's so nice to see him yesterday in that second half, because we haven't seen a performance like that for, I can't remember, probably the last Spurs game. I can't remember when he's putting a 45 like that. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, Purvis, extremely good. Easily one of, as you say, Alex, one of the best performances I've seen from for a long time. A lot of question marks around whether he has been fully fit when he's played in the recent games that we've seen him. But if there's anything to go off that he is fit, it's that performance against Spurs for sure. Another shout out I want to give, someone that maybe not gets the credit that he deserves, is Igor. I think Igor is an extremely capable replacement for Van Hecke. Obviously, he doesn't have the incredible attributes that we so love about Jan-Paul Van Hecke, but he is extremely capable. Playing on the left-hand side of a back two, playing with a left back next to him as well. I think it just gives him that sort of comfort almost that he's got someone to bail him out, someone to help him out. And it's weird because you maybe think that in a back three he'll be a little bit more comfortable because he's got two more centre backs. But I think with Dunkey next to him and the Stupinian there, obviously Kadioglu in the first half, it just allowed him to be that more relaxed on the ball and to know where people were going to be so he could play the ball out like he likes to do. Igor is also a bit of a ball. Yes, he is. And he has thighs of thunder. That man is absolutely huge. I mean, yeah, I don't think that the camera does him any justice whatsoever, but live in the flesh, Igor is an absolute beast. So yeah, I think a lot of credit's got to go to Igor as well for coming in to a game, sort of 10 minutes in for an injured Adam Webster, and to pick up the pace of the game that quickly. And I think he did well. Go on, Dagan.
Yeah, well, I mean, first I want to say Webster was quite good today or yesterday in his brief cameo. I mean, he made a couple of clearances. He was in the right spot. He held the line well. The first goal, Igor was asleep at the wheel, not aware, not marking. I've heard people say, what must be going on in training that Igor didn't get the start yesterday? And I think maybe that's a little hint of it, where he just isn't always as locked in, but he's clearly very talented and does a lot of things well. When he gets pushed farther forward, as he is wont to do, he's not a speedster tracking back. And so I think, that probably works against him in this Highline system. Not that any of our guys are any of our center back options are lightning fast. Say Van Heck is probably the quickest of the group, but Igor might be the least fleet of foot. And I think it's more an issue of him turning his hips and running. He's not as quick to turn. Again, because he is immense, but when he's in the box and defending, I think he's really, really effective. And he's good on the ball. He's really good on the ball, which is certainly a part of our system that's important. So he's got a huge opportunity right now, a huge opportunity to be, a go-to starter for the next couple of months, or at least 6 weeks. And hopefully he grows into that, right? I mean, Jorginho is getting more opportunities because João Pedro's out, and boy, did he rise to the occasion yesterday. And that's what you hope for, right? You bring these guys in, you have, some talent, some depth. You've got, Igor's a roughly $13-15 million player who's been, sitting on our bench for the most part. Now he gets an opportunity, and you hope he's ready. He had a lot of success at Fiorentina. So, I mean, I agree. A talent for sure. It'll be interesting to see if, he has the mistakes in him as we felt like Webster has, or if he can really rise to the occasion. But I like him. Definitely. He's a fun player to root for.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I'm going to note about our goals, Alex, is that the never give up attitude of all three of the goals was excellent. I mean, Minter could have switched off when that ball came in. He could have thought Destiny Udogie would clear it, but he was there waiting for the ball and turned it in. Rutter, when he burst through, he was pushed off the ball, stayed strong, got his finish away beautifully. And for the third goal, I mean, he took 5 Spurs players out of the game with what looked like a nutmeg or whatever it was, but I think it was a slide tackle. Crosses the ball for Danny Welbeck to head it into an empty net. I mean, there's a lot to be said about the feeling of something special is about to happen here. And when that second goal went in, did you feel the Amex turn? Did you think it could be one of those classic games?
Yeah, I thought the Amex turned after the first goal, to be honest. I thought probably there was several people like myself who trudged down the steps at half time, went and bought a pint, downed it, thinking they were drowning their sorrows, came back up, and 8 minutes later, you're using that energy in a celebratory way. So I think it woke the whole stadium up, and everyone. It was perfect timing because we had that. It was almost like a 10-minute gap between each one, wasn't there? There's like 8-9 minutes or something. And it's just that bang, bang, bang. We didn't let up. It was relentless. And as you say, there was that never die energy. You know, Purvis and Matoma had already touched on linking up for that first one. And you know, into the box, Minty with, you know, and I've been one of the people who's kind of questioned his decision making. I put my hands up for that. And, you know, I think a little bit of time out has done him the world of good. He's seen that there's competition for him. He's got up his game and he's come in. And yesterday he was back to his best that we've seen him at. I think there's so much. The ceiling is very, very high on that player. I've never denied that. So good to see him back. And then, yeah, Jorginho, who is rapidly becoming my favourite player, I've got to say. And you know, yesterday, that I love that player who's got that strength, the ability. You know, Danny Welbeck referred to him as Velcro because the ball stuck to his feet, right? And to just go through that crowd of players, get to the byline. I was watching that go, well, that's out. You know, it's going to be a corner or something. Oh, that's good. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a corner. I hope they give it for a corner. And then, no, he's managed to hook it in and Welbeck's on the end of it with his head. And you're just like, oh, that you know, is glorious. Absolutely glorious. But João Pedro's going to have some trouble getting back into this team. He really is. And I think that's really interesting is throughout the season, we're going to really see that competition for places, making players raise their games because he's not going to be afraid to drop you out for a game or two. You know, it's your place. You've got an opportunity to go and make your place. I don't think Fabian Hurtzler will drop you. You know, I think he'll keep you going in or, you know, give the other player a chance to cup or whatever. It's going to be interesting, really interesting.
Yeah. The friendly authority, he calls himself. How friendly can he be when Rutter's scoring 20 goals a season and João Pedro's waiting to get back in? Dagan, do you think João Pedro's a definite starter when fit, or do you think Rutter could keep him out?
Well, I mean, Danny Welbeck keeps scoring goals. That makes it much more difficult. I mean, I think you would expect a João Pedro-Rutter partnership to have a lot of potential, to have João Pedro at the 9. And you would think maybe, you know, that could be the eventual plan if we were keeping both of them. But again, there are contingencies for the contingencies, and João Pedro could go and Ferguson could stay and fill that role. I mean, but Welbeck isn't going to be in that spot forever as the everyday starter. You know, I'd venture in a best case scenario, he wouldn't have started as many games as he started already. But with the João Pedro injury and Ferguson being injured earlier, he's really gotten the lion's share of opportunities. Yeah, I mean, João Pedro has been our best player the time that he's been on the pitch for us, and I don't think it's been close for me. Rutter played really, really well yesterday. It was really exciting, but he would have to repeat that consistently for me to say he's a clear starter ahead of João Pedro, price tag aside. Yeah, I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but he's got a ways to go to reach that level for me. But it was certainly an impressive performance. I do think he's still more a creator than finisher, and João Pedro, I think, is more a finisher than a creator. So hopefully there's a partnership there that could be as successful as the Pedro Ferguson partnership was early last year before we saw them injuries befall them.
Yeah, for sure. And my dad's in the chat saying, never known it so flat in the North Stand, which, yeah, it was. And then, boom, yeah. What a goal can do, the magic of a goal. Joanna says, can I ask your views on Enciso? I mean, yeah, Enciso came on second half. For me, Enciso at the moment is incredibly frustrating. When you think he's going to beat someone and just drive forwards, he likes to come back and try and beat him again. And that always infuriates me about a player. But he's very young. He's very raw still. Really good performances for Paraguay in the Olympics. And he's an incredible talent. So we're very lucky to have him. And I hope that Fabian Hurtzler can get the best out of him. I mean, Alex, what's your views on Julio Enciso?
Yeah, I love him. I absolutely love him. And, you know, last season, he's one of the major emerging talents in the squad. I don't think this season he's been given opportunities. I don't know why. I mean, like someone, Phil, I think, says in the comments, he'd like to see him come on earlier. I don't think we needed to make those changes earlier. I think it was one of those matches where if you're in that tempo and in that rhythm, you don't want to make those changes to the attacking side like that early on. So that's probably why he left it till a bit later for Enciso and for, of course, Gruder to come on as well a little bit later as well. Yeah, I mean, he was good yesterday. I thought he was good. He didn't make a mistake, right? And he was tracking back all right, I seem to remember. But yeah, nothing. No, I also don't remember anything particularly awe-inspiring either, but I might be forgetting because I was pretty excited by that point, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. When it's at that stage of a game and you're just praying for every single Spurs attack to just fizzle out to nothing, and it's quite hard to focus on individual performances and individual moments, I guess. But yeah, I was willing every single Spurs attack to just sort of roll to Bart Verbruggen, and it seemed to do that. Bart seemed to claim absolutely everything, which is really, really good. That to have that sort of assurance behind your back line for a goalkeeper to come out and sort of command his box like that. Sorry, Dagan, you got a point?
Well, I was just going to say on Enciso, for me, early in the summer, he looked for the first time like he'd recovered from his injury. And then he took another minor injury to the same knee. And he has continued to look hesitant and not quite himself again since then. So, you suffer an injury like that for the first time in your life. It's hard to come back psychologically as much as physically. And so I think he'd finally turned the corner and looked really, really great before the Olympics. Then when the Olympics riding a high, and then again, he came up with this injury. And just not sure when we're going to see his best again. I think it's in there. That player is in there. But the speed that he possessed with the ball pre-injury, we have not yet seen again. And that's what makes him so electric, is his ability to accelerate, get into space, and then blast the shot. And right now, he doesn't have the quickness to get that space to blast that shot. So he's pressing, and the shots are less on target because he doesn't have the space to do it. And I'm sure that's frustrating for him. And I'm sure that's something we're seeing in training and why he's not on the pitch more, at least for me.
Yeah, definitely. My dad's put a comment in saying, call out to anyone injured on the bus that we were going on to the stadium. I hope everyone's okay. Just a very quick anecdote, or anecdote, is that the right word? No, a horror story. It could have been really bad. We were coming off the slip road up to the Amex, pulling off the motorway. Someone cut the bus up and he had to slam his brakes on. And with that, someone shunted the bus from behind, which sent a good 6 grown men flying. A lot of people sort of folded up in between seats, and it wasn't very nice scenes. So if anyone that was on that bus is listening to this podcast, I hope you're okay. I know that I was holding one guy up who was extremely sort of shut up by the incident. So yeah, I hope he's okay as well. But yeah, at half time, honestly, with that happening before the game, and then at half time we were 2-0 down, I was thinking, for goodness sake, this just is not my day, is it? At all. But thank God for the Albion for making our days a little bit brighter. And I also want to pay tribute to my great uncle, who was an Albion fan. We found out he passed away, sadly, and he would have absolutely adored that game. So, George, that one was for you, and I hope you enjoyed that from wherever you're watching on from. So, yeah, we love you. But yeah, I mean, that was the game. Very exciting. Going into an international break now, people might say that the international break's coming at a bad time. You win a game, you want to continue that momentum. But for me, obviously, it's nice to sign off into an international break on a high point. So I will come to Alex first and ask for your player of the match, please.
Jorginho. 1 goal, 1 assist. Player I love to watch. Lots of fun. All game. Yeah. I think definitely. 100%.
And what a wonderful smile he has as well.
Oh, man. He's brilliant, isn't he? He's brilliant. I love him.
We will talk about the return of a legend in just a moment. Dagan, who was your player of the match, please?
I mean, Jorginho's the obvious choice for what he did to get the result. I think anybody across the front line is probably an eligible contender for this one, reasonably. Just for the preponderance of chances created, for me, it's Matoma. I think without him, the opportunity to finish as many as we did probably isn't there. So just to be different and not give Jorginho a unanimous decision, I'm gonna go Matoma.
Well,
Jorginho's a fine choice. I can't argue with it.
I'm going to be different and go for the guy that is just there, Danny Welbeck. I mean, we need a serious conversation about Danny Welbeck, of how close he is to becoming an Albion icon. I'm not going to use the word legend because Tom doesn't like me to use it loosely. An Albion icon. How close is Danny Welbeck? 3 goals away from matching Pascal Gross's Premier League tally for us. Chat, I'll hand it over to you. Leave in the comments, how close is Danny Welbeck? Is it going to take him beating Pascal's tally, or is he already there? He might already be there for you. So yeah, let us know. We'll very briefly touch on the return, the emotional return of Pascal Gross. Alex, I mean, what a moment it was to welcome him back to the Amex.
Oh man, it's standing up on the back of my neck now just thinking about it. Actually, yeah, it was so lovely. What a humble guy, and he is just so humble whenever he talks, and you know he just comes across kind of overwhelmed. He was obviously like enjoying the reception. A lot of people made their seats, a little bit earlier than maybe they would to make sure they were there to say, hello and goodbye to him. And there's no one greater in our Premier League time. I don't think. I mean, Donkey, but in terms of players we bought, and 3 million from Ingolstadt. I think we all, when Gross came in, were like, what is that? And is he was one of the first, I guess, of Tony Bloom's real signings, who's for peanuts, who went on to become one of the greatest, in his time, one of the most underrated midfielders in the Premier League for sure, and swiftly becoming a club favourite. Is that what we say? We're not allowed to say legends.
No. Pascal Gross. Pascal Gross is an Albion legend. Yeah. I will die on that hill. He is an Albion legend, 100%.
Absolutely. First goal ever in the Premier League, first European goal away, top Premier League goal scorer.
For how long?
At the moment.
Danny Welbeck is going to have something to say about that before the end of the season, I'm sure. One thing Pascal did say before he went off to the stands to watch the rest of the game, he said that in Germany they say that you always see each other twice in life. So maybe one day he will return to the Albion. And then he spurred the boys on to go out and win the game. And that they did. So there you go, Pascal. We miss the Gross turn. We miss everything about you. But hopefully that's not goodbye. I mean, he was suited and booted. He looked like a manager. Could be an Albion manager in the future. Just saying. But that just about rounds up the Albion Obsessed podcast for this week. Yes, I do want to actually give a quick shout out to the women's team who won 4-2 against Aston Villa. A really good Aston Villa side, by the way. They are or were flying high in the WSL last season. So it's a huge statement win for our Albion women's team. Give a shout out as well to the She Goals podcast, which is powered proudly by Albion Obsessed. It's Duncan, Ben, and Claire. If you haven't checked it out, if you're listening to us on Spotify, go to our Spotify page, click on More Like This, and you will find the She Goals podcast there. Extremely passionate guys. They love talking about our women's team, which, they've had an unbelievable start to this season. So if you want to go and listen to them, please do so. Let's have a quick look at the comments before we sign off. Pascal, too old to be our manager now. Yeah, very true. Very true. How old's Fabian Hertzler? Can someone remind me? I don't think they've said it enough in the press, but anyway. Well, Alex is unmuted.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I can't.
You don't
I
know?
don't know. Never heard.
No, not sure. 58?
Stop throwing crowd. You guys want to touch base on the fact that despite all this, we're 6th in the table?
I mean, yeah.
We're not 10 games in yet. I know we're not supposed to talk about it until 10 games.
Yeah. I mean, that is the unwritten rule, Dagan. That is the unwritten rule.
This is all preseason as far as most are concerned. But yeah, look, it's all too close. I mean, we're 4 points ahead of Man U and down in 14th. Right. So, this next run of really tough fixtures is going to be critical. To your point about having
we don't need to be thinking about relegation fodder like Man United. We don't need to be thinking about them.
We could think about them. Maybe not think about our other friends who sit with 3 points through 7. There's only one team in the league in that standing. They are below the relegation. Our friends Palace.
That's good. I hope they go down.
But yeah, I mean, Chelsea away Liverpool next time out. Villa away Fulham. We're away Newcastle. If we find our way to get the best of those results, we'd sit 4th. I know Newcastle away is no picnic. They have not been in the best form, even at home.
They drew 0-0 to Everton.
It's interesting. It's wide open. Yeah, it's wide open right now.
I think also we've got a tough run of fixtures, but this is the best time to be playing those teams, right? Because they've got such a congested fixture list, and we always say that, but those Champions League games are coming thick and fast for those teams. If you look at the runs that Liverpool have got, for example, and City, it's pretty horrendous, and we haven't got to contend with that amount of games. So I think this is where we really need to let the energy show. That extra kind of bit in the can in the tank that really needs to show through in these next few matches when we come back from the break.
Yeah, definitely. All to play for in the Premier League as Brighton contend with the very best. Well, we are the very best, so we'll be winning the league come May. Don't you worry about it, everyone. Just relax. Dagan's got us with the optimism.
Look, settle in for Champions League football next year. That's the goal.
My head would be on Mars.
I'd probably explode. I would just explode.
It looks like that 5th spot is going to be England's to lose the way we started. Right? That 5th Champions League spot next year. I think, England didn't grab it this year or this past year, but it looks favorable with the early results. So if that holds, it's not out of the question. It's not out of the question.
You're putting too much on the English teams to actually do well, Dagan. I mean, yeah.
Well, the accrual of points in the group stage will be higher because of the extra 2 games.
Okay.
So that helps us a little bit because there are more group games than knockout games. So if it does go poorly in the knockouts, it's the groups.
I'm still convinced it's going to go tits for Villa at some point this season, to be sure.
I mean, yeah, that's always. Well, I think Dagan's trying to talk to us, but his internet in America is on a shoestring. So I don't know if we'll get him back before the end of the podcast.
10p in the meter.
I know. I don't know what internet they've got installed in the States, but goodness me. They need to get it checked out. Oh, he's back. He's just very pixelated. Hello, Dagan. You've returned as we're about to sign off.
I think I've returned.
I think so. But, we're going to call it quits there anyway, guys.
I'm here. I think I'm here.
You're there, but
just
you're very
optimist, looking ahead.
We love you, Dagan.
We do. But yes, that is all for the Albion Obsessed podcast for this week. Enjoy your international break. Stop stressing about the high line because it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. We'll be back against Newcastle. They'll score a goal on the counter, and it'll be the world's going to end again. Anyway, we're going to sign off. If you haven't checked us out, please do subscribe to the podcast. It does help us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, not Twitter, X, Facebook, if you're on Facebook, at Albion Obsessed. Do all the good things. We'll see you when you're a little bit older. See you later. Bye-bye.